of Blood and Bracelets, Book 1 in the Amila trilogy. Written by Qandeel Alam. Narrated by Bilaiscool. Chapter 1. Illness and Empty Rooms. Pain. That was all she felt. Her senses were numb, her limbs were like lead. She was dead. Dead and probably in hell. That would explain the continuous throbbing in her head and the smell of carbolic acid. Oh God, please don't let it be a hospital. Elizabeth bolted upright and instantly regretted it as a sharp pain shot through her head. She lay back down and took deep breaths, trying to soothe the pain that now resonated through her. After a few minutes, the pain receded enough for her to open her eyes slowly and look around. She observed her surroundings and breathed a sigh of relief. She was not in a hospital, but was currently lying on one of the small beds in the nurse's office at Vernal High. That was not any better, of course. Keep calm, Elizabeth. I'm sure there is a reason why you are here, she told herself, and closed her eyes, trying to recall the events of the past few hours. After a few moments of trying to think through the dense fog that seemed to have taken up a permanent residence inside her head, she came up with a vague recollection of coming to school this morning, and after putting some more strain of her brain cells, she remembered the proceedings of the past few days and almost groaned at her own stupidity. She had been ill for some time now, a case of common cold. She had obviously stayed home, but after the fourth day of being bored out of her mind, she decided that she was well enough to come back to school. So yesterday, she had put up a great show for her parents, trying to convince them that the effects of the flu had all worn off, and now here she was, in school. She had been so happy to be back, and really her friends were almost bursting with news. Who knew so much could happen in the span of 4 days? Elizabeth had just smiled and went along trying to keep up with Angelina's excited and overly dramatic narrative of the past few days. She had missed her friends most of all. They had come to visit, of course, but spending time with them in school was fun in its own way. Elizabeth had been fine for the first few classes, but during the third period, English, she felt oddly lightheaded. Choosing to ignore it, she tried to focus on the lecture. First mistake. Second was when she talked back to Mr. Mayers. Rule number 1 at Vernal High. Do not, in any circumstances, talk back to Mr. Mayers. And she had broken it, probably because she was not feeling very well. In any case, Mr. Mayers, being his evil, demented self, refused to acknowledge his mistake and ordered her to go to the principal's office. All the while, he was saying something about students who missed school because of some little scratch, but Elizabeth could hardly even hear him. Her head had started to spin, but her being stubborn herself ignored it. She had tried to get up and follow the teacher's orders, but hardly ever moved from her seat when a wave of nausea hit her. She had blacked out at the very moment, and the next thing she knew, she woke up here. Elizabeth looked around the room again. It was small with only 4 hospital beds, the nurse's table, and of course the various medicines in the shelves directly opposite to the bed Elizabeth was on. The same wall was painted a calming shade of green, the colour one would associate with forest. The wall to Elizabeth's right was actually a huge window. The curtains were parted and everything in the room was bathed in sunlight. The small side table beside the bed had her cell phone and wallet on it. She sat up slowly, trying not to make any sudden move, and reached for her mobile. To her surprise, there were several messages. She popped her head against the headboard and started to read. The first one was from her friend Angelina. Angie the Great. You should be thankful that you're not here to listen to Miss Knightley's lecture on Greek philosophy. It's so boring. Hopefully Shah will lend us her notes. No way. She doesn't take world history. We are doomed. She laughed at that and scrolled down. There were a few messages by her mom asking her how she was. There was one by her brother as well. Jason 1011. Heard you fainted. Did little Lizzie see a ghost? Don't worry, Big Brother is right here to protect you. Not. Anyway, I will pick you up after school, or I'm certain Mom will have a fit or something. Hang in there and try not to faint again. After all, I have an image to uphold." She rolled her eyes. Her brother had graduated from Vernal High 2 years ago and was now in college. Luckily, it was nearby and he often gave her a ride home. He had been a big basketball star, and even now she was more commonly known as Jason Thompson's little sister. With a huff, she scrolled down. The last message was from her friend Charlotte, or Shah for short. "Mrs. Holmes, hey Elizabeth, hope you are feeling better. Our last class of the day will be economics and all of us will be over to nurse's office directly afterwards. Angie plans on escorting you home, though I'm certain that your brother will come to pick you up. But nevertheless, expect us at 3, and Angie's saying that you shouldn't even dare to leave without us, because if you do, she will personally let all the embarrassing pictures she has of you go viral. Personally, I wouldn't risk it. She has lots of ammunition. So yeah, your call. Anyway, see you soon. Charlotte." She laughed at Angie's threat and shook her head. She turned towards the wall clock that was mounted on the wall opposite to her and frowned as the clock read 3:15. Maybe the clock is running faster than it should, she thought, and checked her cell phone for the time. To her surprise, it read 3:17 p.m. "Why are they so late?" Elizabeth asked herself while trying to carefully sit up in bed. She recalled something about her friends having a new economics teacher. Apparently she had joined earlier this week, and coincidentally it was the same day Elizabeth had fallen ill. Elizabeth couldn't quite recall her name, but maybe she wanted them to stay after class or something. With a shrug, she picked up her red book back from the floor and stuffed the wall inside, then also checked to see that all her stuff was still there. Her overly colourful pouch, check. The paintbrush keychain that she won at the carnival last month, check. Her personalised notebooks, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, check. Her English book, which some kind-hearted soul had thought to stuff in a bag and she had passed out, check. She mumbled, and after giving the contents in a bag a final once-over, she put it aside. Elizabeth checked her cell phone again. There was a message from her brother, Jason 1011. "Sorry sis, I'm going to be a bit late. Don't fret and don't pass out again. I'll be over to pick you up soon, so don't you even think of walking home, just so that Mom can scold me for being an irresponsible older brother. See you soon and stay put." Elizabeth groaned. Her headache had started to intensify, and she wondered what was keeping her friends as she checked the time again, which was now 3:21. She was annoyed at her brother for being late and also at her friends. Carefully getting off the bed and slipping on her pumps, she started for the door, taking small steps. Her every move was careful because one wrong jerk sent spikes of pain running through her. Reaching for the door, she peered outside at the almost deserted hallways. Most of the students would have gone home by now, except for those, of course, who were members of clubs or some team. She knew where her friends had their economic class, and thankfully it was on the ground floor at the end of the same hallway as the nurse's office. She made her journey towards the room slowly, cursing at her friends every step of the way. One of the students of the computer club came out of the classroom and went in the direction of a lab for the first floor, but other than that, she didn't meet a soul. As she neared the room where she knew her friends had their economic class in, her heart started to beat faster. Something told her that she should not go in there. As she stood in front of the door with her hand on the doorknob, she forced herself to take long, calming breaths, for it seemed as if her entire being protested against the simple action of turning the knob. It felt like a permanent chill had invaded her mind, and her lips felt oddly numb. She followed her anxiety and pushed her instincts aside. In one swift motion, she turned the knob and yanked the door open. She peered inside and was shocked. Instead of the blood-spattered floors and the huge demonic creature that she expected to be growling at her from atop its perch on the teacher's desk, she saw nothing. Absolutely nothing. The room was totally empty. "Where are they?" Elizabeth asked herself as she ventured further inside the almost deserted classroom. If only she knew that the answer to that particular question would lead her on to an adventure of a lifetime.